Well, hello everyone. Welcome once again to Bloodbowl Live for our Monday night roundup. Your chance to catch up on all of the last week's fixtures and to see how everybody got on in a great week of Blood Bowl. It's been a really, really good week this week. Loads of really, really gripping games that we've had. So, 10 games to go through. We'll go through all of those games for you all shortly. Couple of things before I do. First of all, I want to say a massive thank you to all of our coaches this season. It's just been the involvement and engagement we've had from everyone has been really, really great. We're trying lots of stuff, and lots of people are sort of giving us opinions and how we can change things, and it's genuinely really good. We like that kind of feedback from everyone. So yeah, really, really grateful to all of our coaches for getting involved and being involved in this season. So that is fantastic. Secondly, at the end of this video, I'm doing that annoying thing where you stick your kind of grand teaser at the end of the video, which is supposed to keep people watching. So at the very end, we have a teaser for something brand new that we will be adding to this season. So keep an eye out for that. If you are a coach in particular who maybe you've played a couple of games and you're not convinced how long your season is going to last, I might be one of those coaches after my game on Sunday, then this is something for you. So stay tuned, or stop watching and, wait till it's on Twitch and just skip to the end to see what the teaser is. That's another option. But anyway, enough of that. We'll get to that later, and we will dive straight in for this week's fixtures. And we will start off with the Tide Mill Truckles versus Tetanus Hotspews. Another Scott versus Scott, because everyone except Sam is called Scott in that group. And the message that I got from the Nurgle coach after this game was that was tough. So I don't think the Halflings made this particularly easy. I think that's good. I think this group in particular, when we look at the groups later, the Nurgle team are comfortably at the top, but I think the games are tighter than they look, and this is an example of that. 2-0, as I always say it, 2-0 always looks harsher than I think maybe the game was. And looking at this game, the Halflings had a nice amount of inducements to take, took Grack and Crumbleberry, which immediately, the first thing Torplay tells us is that was a good move, because Crumbleberry was the player that got -1 movement stat bust rather than one of his halflings that would be staying for the next game. So if quite frankly, if he did nothing else, he has prevented a stat bust for one of his permanent players, so probably worth it. The little kind of I got some information from some of the coaches on this one. I believe if you look at the stats at the top, I'll swing back to the top, you can see that the Nurgle only actually got 1 casualty, but the Halflings got 4 injuries. I think there was lots of dodging that didn't quite go the way. Crumbleberry here, I believe, tried to pull off a blitz and fell on his face and was out of the game, so just sort of hurt himself. Halfling catcher, badly hurt. Hey, at least he's coming back next game. And the a lead, goes into the Nurgle team go into the first half with a 1-0 lead, which was perfect for them. Having a look at how it went, a Pescator with a -1 movement stat bust. That does feel a bit painful because they are your more kind of mobile positionals in that team. But actually, I don't think the coach will mind. To be honest, I mean, it's an interesting one because you could sack that Pescator straight away and replace it with another one if you've got the money, or you've kind of got a player that you don't really care about that you can stick on the line and let get beaten to a pulp. That's how I'm viewing one of my stat busts, and maybe that's how this one's going to be as well. I don't know. Second half came along, completion for a tree man, that's great, and I believe, looking at some of the notes I've got as well, that tree man chucked a halfling down the pitch, but unfortunately that halfling then just kind of had to sit there because they had used up all their movement already, and then I believe got beaten down by a couple of pescators. So unfortunate, I guess. very quickly then we see that's where the casualty comes. A couple of badly hurt linemen there, and the Pescator gets the ball and can run down the field. Looks like It looks like by the end there, the tree's rooted. Bonehead is on Grack, so it's a bit of an uphill battle for the halflings at that point. MVP on a tree man. I don't know. Tree men I've faced a couple of times, and I guess your big guy getting MVP if you can skill him up. But I know tree men's movement are very, not a lot of movement there. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what people think of tree men because I don't have as much experience with them. But anyway, Nurgle's going to be happy with that 2-0 win. Going to be taking that away, sitting comfortably at the top of their table. I believe this week the halflings face the rats, so it's going to be interesting to see what starts to form for second place in that group, because at the minute we look like we know who's coming first, but we don't know further down. Anyway, well done to both coaches. We'll move on to the next game, and next up we have let's have a look here. We have the Kittens for Tea versus Makuahutil. 1 week, I'll say it, and I won't hesitate. And this one I was in the shop briefly for, and it looked. I mean, I really like Nick as a coach because he does try. He tries anything and everything. And, looking at this game, a 2-1 loss for him, but 4 casualties, more SPP for his team. Nick's really stepped up his game from last season. And I do think whether he gets out of this group, I think he could be a factor that decides who gets out of this group if it's not him. I honestly do. I think he could just cause a few upsets and do just what he needs to. And also, we like him because he likes to foul. I mean, so first of all, inducements, he's taken Fung the Saloon and Creek. So he's going for that ball and chain straight away. And this one, I think a few of us had this up and were watching the stats come through. His train troll Bacon had a fantastic game, and his Goblin Toast also had a fantastic game. And straight away, Bacon gets a casualty. Doesn't manage to stop the Amazons from coming through. Blitzer scoring a touchdown. We get on to turn 5. Bacon immediately gets a casualty and takes out a lineman for the rest of the game and missing the next game. Then we get a foul, and then we get a foul, and then we get another casualty from the hooligan and a stat-busted lineman. We've got a lot of stat busts coming this week. I'd be really interested to see what people think, if people would bin a stat bust immediately or whether they would keep hold of them. I think you could be either way on that. Train Troll gets another completion, and then Toast gets a touchdown, and it's 1-1. And yeah, I genuinely, I was kind of, I always tend to root for the underdog, and I saw Nick as an underdog here, and immediately thought he could get something from this. It could be great. Fungus sent off, as secret weapons are. And then we get some completion. The Amazons do what they know how to do. A couple of completions there, brings back the touchdown to make it 2-1. And there's still a lot of turns left for the Goblins to come back, but Nick looks like he was just having a great time. Turn 10, foul. Turn 11, foul. Turn 11, Train Troll gets another completion. Turn 16, foul. Creek gets a casualty at the end there. So I think this looked like it would have been. I wish I could have stuck around and watched more of it. I think this looked like a really fun game, probably for both coaches. Probably the Amazons may have got to one point where there was some concern about the number of casualties there. But actually, when you look at them, there's a badly hurt casualty there. There is a stat bust and a miss next game, so that is 2 that they are down. But I think they're both linemen there, so it's not too bad. And this group is going to be tight. I do believe that Nick could decide the group. Chris will be really happy to have come away with a win there, even if he has lost a couple of plays. He's got some good SPP for his thrower for some completions there, and I'm sure he'll be happy to have got some points on the board after that sort of initial defeat from Rich on the first game. So Again, well done to you both. Great to see some fouls coming in. We had so many fouls this week. It was, quite frankly, madness. Unhinged this week, the number of fouls we had. But let's move on to we have back-to-back games from the Blitz Brigade, and this one was against the Scale Marys. Scale Marys had really rotten luck in their first game. I think as we said before, 14 turns in a row before he actually managed to finish a turn without a turnover. So some really rotten luck. And Harrison coming in with his Elven Union team, first game of the season, and this one was tight. This was tight. This was one of the ones that I couldn't stop watching this one. It was really really close. Straight from the off, a 2-turn touchdown from the elves straight away, and that's such an intimidating thing to face. Like immediately being a touchdown town so early on, you've got a lot of time to come back, but just being immediately on the back foot, that is tricky. Sauruses then started to do their thing a bit. We get a casualty from a Saurus there, and then we got what is a very unlucky strength stat busted Saurus, and a strength 3 Saurus is. Again, we're back to the stat busting. We're back to whether it's worth keeping stat busted players. Saurus is movement 6, no skills whatsoever, and then strength 3, just like a regular lineman for a regular team. And you can only have 6 of them. That's tricky. And what makes this one particularly worse is the initial roll for the stat bust was a passing stat bust. Saurus's passing is already 6+. And there was an errata that confirmed that you re-roll it because you can't get worse than a 6+. So he almost got away with it, then had to re-roll, and then ended up with the strength bust, which really does suck. I believe the Scale Mary's coach, I believe David has sacked this Saurus and hired a replacement. I think that's the way that he's gone with it. Probably the way I would have gone with it as well. I think it is the way I went with it in my first season where I had a similar scenario. But anyway, the Sauruses kept bashing. We had a casualty, another casualty for them, so that is 2 casualties, and then equalised with the Skink to make it 1-1 on turn 7. So goes into that second half with a draw and receiving the ball, so would have been very happy there. And then started to foul, and actually, there weren't a huge number of elves. It doesn't show us the knockouts, but there were quite a few of them as well, so Harrison was quite down. Foul comes, and the touchdown, which this doesn't tell us exactly how that happened, but I was watching, so I can give you more of a breakdown here. Skink's got the ball. Elves manage to blitz the Skink. The ball goes loose and lands on the Saurus. As someone who's played lizards, the one thing I kind of wouldn't want to happen is for the Saurus to catch it. I just hate it when my Saurus has the ball. The Saurus catches the ball, and then the Saurus just has 7 points of movement to walk in and score the touchdown because the lizards just outnumber the elves at this point by such a large amount. And I screamed. I was shouting at the screen when the Saurus decided to rush to score when there was no one around. I was convinced he was going to stall. It's turn 15. Could have stalled to turn 16 and walked in without having to do the rush. He did the rush. I had my head in my hands, but it pulled off on a 2. He rolled a 2. It was close. To score that last one. There was so that's the touchdown. And then the elves have 2 turns. The elves have turns 15 and 16, and the only thing that could mess that up is if the kickoff event is a blitz. So of course the kickoff event was a blitz. Of course it was. And Saurus then immediately gets a casualty as part of that blitz, and it's then more and more difficult. And credit to Harrison, to be fair, because he still got the ball to the right player, moved it down the pitch. So, he had then the space that he could then move forward. And then you kind of watching on the stream, you watched as more and more lizards surround that lineman for a 3 dice block, and the lineman dies there on the spot with the ball. Credit to Harrison for trying it. It was always going to be difficult, and the Lizards just saw the opportunity for another casualty and took it. So yeah, it was a tight game. The number of knockouts Harrison got unlucky with, and the Lizards did really, really well. Absolute credit to them to bounce back from that first game. So they take away the 2 points, the 3 points for the win. They take away the point for the 4 casualties as well, and a load of SPP. So David will be happy with that. Harrison then had our next game played the following day. Had 2 games in a row. How great is that? And this one was our Elven Derby, which was always going to be an interesting one when this group was drawn, that we could see that it was elves versus elves. This was always going to be an interesting fixture to see which way it went. And I always feel like when I say that a coach had bad luck, that it sometimes feels like I'm taking away from the other coach what was probably a really good performance. So I don't want to do that, but I have to say Harrison had some bad luck yet again. So very evenly matched here. Going into this game, Harrison's taking 2 journeymen into this game. Phil's taking 3 journeymen into this game. The only really difference positional-wise is Phil is 1 blitzer down. Otherwise, they are very, very similar on paper. The evolutionaries just have a little bit of money to get a part-time coach. I guess the evolutionaries here, sort of to level the playing field, needed to get rid of the blitzer. So on turn 1, they get rid of the blitzer, and the blitzer's also missing the next game. So immediately, we're level again. We're back to very similar, except the evolutionaries have 1 additional player. But turn 2. A casualty from the journeyman for the Blitz Brigade. So they are really going backwards and forwards here. Now, I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, I had a conversation with Phil, the coach of the Evolutionaries, before this game, where he was sort of, I guess, questioning the taking of an apothecary over the taking of more fans. And I said to him, if that apothecary saves a high SPP skilled player, and stops that player from having to be replaced with the money you might have got from the fans, then immediately it's been worth it. So, and I apologise, Phil, I'm sorry, but when I saw that your thrower had been knocked down and then the apothecary brought them back into the game, I did feel a little bit smug. I did. I'm sorry. I just did. But I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad that the apothecary did what he wanted to do. Blitzer Spike turn 8 gets a niggling injury on the other blitzers. So that's both blitzers out of the game there straight away. And the blitzers for the elves are such good positionals as well. So that is, that immediately does put you on the back foot. But we go into the half at 0-0, and then it looks like a 2-turn touchdown for a throw and a catch from the evolutionaries. So elves doing what elves do, and can score very, very quickly. Changing weather luckily kept it nice, and the casualties kept coming. This time the catcher getting a casualty against a lineman. And then we have a very quick turnaround touchdown for the Blitz Brigade. So immediately comes back at them with a completion and a touchdown. Then more casualties come. They were really... this again looks like it would have been a really great one to sort of see, because they were really trading blows. Lots of dice clearly being rolled. Stat busting a lineman. Of all the players to be stat busted, the lineman's probably the one that you're less worried about ditching, especially for a team like Elves. But then they're not the cheapest to replace. And then we get another completion and another touchdown on turn 15 for the evolutionaries, and then that's the game done. So this was always going to be tight, and I think Harrison once again got some bad luck. But absolute credit to Phil here. He had. It's his first season. It's his first league win with this elf team. So, credit where it's due. Well done there. Right. Well, let's move. Let's keep it going. Let's move on, and let's go to a game that, quite frankly, scared me to my very core. Tipsy Tankards versus the Bear Elves. Tipsy Tankards redrafted for this season. Um, got through to the semi-finals last year, beat me in the third place game with a really strong Norse team. Robert's a great coach, and I love how invested he is in the league. It is really fantastic, and he also pulls no punches. And in this game, he absolutely pulled no punches. Just looking at the stats at the top. 26 SPP to 5 casualties, 8 injuries for the Bear Elves, and 1 death. Like, it was an absolute annihilation. And God, it was Andy's first league game, and Andy's a bit newer to Blood Bowl, and you've got a feel for him because there's a certain. I think when you're in your first game, there's a certain amount of injuries and players missing next game where you think to yourself, okay, all right, well, I've got plenty of games to recover. And then I think there's a threshold where you probably genuinely question whether your season is over after 1 game. And this one was absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal. And if we scroll down, the elves took Willow Rosebark as an inducement there, 2 cheerleaders as well, and there is an immediate sending off. I'm not entirely sure whether that happens as like a blitz foul event or when it is, but if you look at it again, if you just look at tour play and you go, oh look, okay, immediate sending off, right? Elves are getting involved, right? Turn 3, casualty missed next game. Okay, all right. Well, it's only turn 3. Turn 3, casualty badly hurt for alignment. So that's a witch and alignment out. Okay. Valkyrie turn for completion. Looks like we've got a miss next game on turn. Yeah, casualty for High Harry for the star player. So the star player is immediately off the pitch in turn 4, but it's fine. That's not a permanent loss. Muddled Max casualty. Again, you've got a Witch Elf. I believe the Witch Elf was chucked into the crowd and killed. So you've got a surf of the other Witch Elves. So that's 2 Witch Elves out now. Missed next game on the runner, and then a touchdown. So then turn 5, we've got the touchdown for the Norse team. Then we've got a 2-turn touchdown by the looks of it for a completion, and then a touchdown on turn 7. We've got a stat-busted assassin passing again out. What's next? Casualty and a foul, and then a foul. Like, this game just kept going, and what you can't see here is the fact that Andy was pitch cleared. There were no elves on this pitch by the end of the game, which just is so. I mean, you've got a hand. It's so impressive. It's horrible when it happens to you, but watching it happen is amazing. Foul, miss next game. The elves managed to get a completion in to grab 1 SPP, and then what have we got? A foul and sent off, a foul, a completion, a foul, another miss next game. Turn 15 touchdown to make it 3-0. I mean, Robert was just in control, and he's got Mighty Blow on 4 of those Norse, which is just so painful. I was keeping an eye on this one from home, and I was terrified because, as you'll see, I've got my game with Robert is coming up later on. It was an annihilation. It was just so brutal. So, anyway, we'll move on to the next one. Massively well done to Robert. Like, an amazing, amazing performance. Massively hard luck to Andy, who's got another game later on, which we'll see as well. Which, you go into your next game and it's always going to be difficult with that, losing that many players. But we'll have a look at that one later. Well done to you both, and we'll move on to what was our second stream of the week, which was the Numpties versus the Angry Aardvarkians. And this one was. I was quite keen. I was quite looking forward to this one because those dwarves, in the hands of Elliot were, they did really well at a recent tournament. Had great performance there, and I I still think, even after this result, I still think this group could produce one of our third places, because I think it is going to be really, really tight. And I think that the Dwarves can upset a lot of people here. They are not they're probably in the group the strongest team not redrafted, which doesn't say a lot because there's 2 redrafts and 2 not redrafts. But yeah, I was intrigued by this one to see how it would go. And James, watching this one was fascinating. Like, for me, I feel like I watched James put in a almost professional level Blood Bowl performance. It was phenomenal. So first half, James gets a blitz straight away, and immediately the Dwarves are just starting the game on the back foot. And then we start to get some casualties coming in. Siski 3 Arms gets casualties. Siski 3 Arms already a very highly skilled big guy, terrifying player to face. Starts to get those casualties in, and James just put the pressure on from point 1 and grinded that ball back. And then once he was in possession of the ball, kept the ball really, really well, moved it around without rushing in to score. And the Dwarves managed to get a casualty, taking out a Skaven, taking out a Goblin from the team. Harry Slownose doing what he does best and going for a bunch of fouls as well. But I would really recommend. It's available on YouTube. This one, if you want to see what I do think is just an almost like just textbook in control performance. James just owned the first half from the off. And you could say he got lucky with the blitz initially, but the ball never left the Dwarves half, and it was really impressive to watch. And they got that touchdown late in the first half, and then received the ball in the second, and managed to again just calmly and really well played. The tour play feed doesn't give us buckets of information, but takes that ball down to score to go 2-0. And also credit at the end on this one for the. At the end there was some kind of dwarven nonsense that could get them a touchdown at the very death, and sort of both coaches wanted it to happen, and James could have probably been less helpful in this game and could have taken a bonus point without conceding. So it was really great to watch. And the Dwarves got a touchdown at the end there. SPP wise, it's pretty level. It was the Dwarves take more SPP from that game. So it was a close one from that perspective. But yeah, well done to James. Commanding performance, really showing himself at the top of that group at the minute, and looking like a kind of a force not to be messed with. So yeah, I would recommend anyone to watch that game. I really think it was an impressive one. Okay, we have got 4 more games to go. We're already near the half-hour mark. I feel like I'm always going to run over. I kind of get carried away and just sort of ramble. So then we get to my game, Ice Byron versus the Tipsy Tankards, and I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified coming into this game. I really, really, genuinely was. I had seen what Robert had done with his Norse against the elves, and I was scared for my life. And I will take a 2. I will not often take a 2-0 loss as a win, but I will absolutely take a 2-0 loss as a win for this game. First half was Robert was just in control, absolutely in control. Had the ball, got the ball well, and what I was doing, I was simply trying to keep my rats out of range of getting punched. And I did manage to get a blitz on the ball carrier. I got a 1 dice blitz on the ball carrier. But I was just trying not to die. To be completely honest, I just didn't. I wanted to have as many rats left at the end as possible. And all it took was 1 failed dodge and failed dodge reroll, and then Robert had a pitch full of rats that he was stood next to punch. And oh my, did he punch them. And the knockouts, luckily for me, the knockouts kept coming. There were very few casualties in this game, only 2, but the knockouts kept coming. And Robert strolls it in and takes the touchdown at the very end of the first half. And in between that, had many occasions where he just surrounded one of my gutter runners and just fouled turn after turn after turn after turn. And I was relieved when he was knocked out because he kept being stunned, which meant he could do it again. Robert even went for some, he had just the pitch to himself and was just trying some throws to get the SPP up, And this, I haven't even covered the fact that I took 2-star players, and one of them, the Fungus the Loon, Robert took out on turn 1, and and Acorn the Squirrel blitzed them, 1 dice blitzed and got a skull and was out for the rest of the game. So haven't even covered that. Second half. I would like to say I could have had better luck in the second half. I did manage to get the ball in a good position, move it around, get down to the end of the pitch, and was in a really great position. And when I blitzed the Valkyrie to free up the ball, it bounced off a prone gutter runner into the crowd, who just chucked it up the field well away from my players. Bad luck there from me, but I probably lost well before that. And I was at the point here, you can see I start fouling with my gutter runner, fully with the intention of getting him sent off, which I did do, because if he's not on the pitch, he can't die. So, yeah, a 2-0 loss I'll take, because no rats, all of my rats are coming back. And really well done to Robert again. Another great performance, taking 4 points away from that game, because casualties were so minimal and didn't get that 3rd touchdown. But yeah, got to say well done again to Robert there. Really, showing himself as being a force to be reckoned with once again. Moving on, I don't like to rush these last few, but I might rush them a little bit. Iceborne Raiders versus the Inner Day Animals. This is another one of our tighter groups. I think the Animals were very unlucky in their first game against the Elves, and had similar luck here with the sort of the passing not going their way, really. And I think that's probably what decided this game in the end. The Iceborne Raiders had some adjustments, took a stunty superstar for this game. Casualties started to roll in very early on, straight away. A Jaguar blocker out of the game. Fouls are coming through. An interception from the Norse lineman. Is that the interception that's the key one? I think it is. So unfortunate. It was a perfect pass that Jane threw, and it would have got her a touchdown. But it was intercepted, and then from there, I believe the Norse were in a little bit of control to go down and get the touchdown, which it doesn't appear to be. I can't see it. I can only see one touchdown. There's 2. There's one up there. That's it. The touchdown was logged as the wrong player, and we changed it. I do remember now. So they're 1-0 up. It's a chance to level at 1-1, and that interception just at the wrong point. And you got to feel for Jane, because she had a perfect pass in the first game, which wasn't intercepted and failed on the catch. She's had a perfect pass in this one that again would have got her a touchdown, and it's been intercepted. Sometimes it just doesn't go your way, and I think it is really unfortunate, because that could be 2 draws that the Animals have there that are actually 2 losses. But well done to John. In control to a degree with that Norse team, but I think 2-0 here. I don't know whether the coaches would agree with me, but I think again 2-0 probably looks like it was a wider disparity than it actually was. So John, once again, only getting the 1 casualty, so there's no casualty bonus point on this one, but does get the bonus point for not conceding, so 4 points taken away from that game. This group, again, the top 2 are kind of running away, but I'm not ruling out the Animals to do something and possibly close that gap at the top there. But well done to both of them. Great game there. And playing at the same time was the other game in their group, Greystone Gladiators versus Fog Force, which on paper looks like it was a lot closer. Just a 1-0 victory there. Very few casualties on this one as well. Not much SPP coming away from either coaches. So, a tight game. And I don't know if you can tell, just scrolling through here, if I have a look at the number of fouls here, the Orc team here got Prez to Nuffle and got the chance to have SPP from casualties caused by fouling. And you can tell by the fact that there is a foul, a casualty from the Orc there creating a badly hurt, followed by a foul, and another foul. And then we got and then it looks like lost one of the Goblin linemen there. A touchdown for the Elves to take the 1-0 lead, and then we go back to our normal, the foul, a completion, some handy SPP, a foul, a sent off, completion, foul. Quite frankly, the Elves looked like they were throwing, and the Goblins looked like they were fouling. And I think both teams probably had a great game. Probably really enjoyed that one. Andy, for being such a new coach, has caused some very tight games there, and I think he could possibly decide what the order is in this group, because he's taking players out of the game. And he is, I think he could possibly influence other fixtures here, even if he doesn't get out of the group himself. So well done, Andy. Well done to Justin as well. Another win, staying at the top of that group for now, which is really great. And then we go to our last game of the week, which is the Wordhollow Wanderers versus the Bear Elves. Our last fixture played on Sunday afternoon, and Bear Elves were always going to have a difficult game here, coming off the back of that, that destruction from Robert, Simon with his Underworld team would have been looking to bounce back from his 5-2 loss in his first game as well. Both teams looking to see if they can kind of restart the season, and we have to give massive credit to Simon here, because Simon, this is his third season, and up to this point had not won a single league game. 2 seasons with no wins whatsoever, so this is his first league win, and a massive congratulations to him. He absolutely deserves it. He's put in so much effort to get to this point. It really is deserved. Looking at the way the game went, we've got some Elves doing some completions, some Snotlings doing some fouls. It's exactly what we want to see. And the Elves start to take out some of the Snotlings, start to thin out the crowd with some niggling injuries and things like that. Stat busting a Snotling. I don't think Simon's really going to worry about that. But the Elves take the lead against all odds with those six journeymen they were taking in this game. So against the odds, managed to take a lead on turn 3. So really, really good start. And then, keep the casualties going in. It looks like a very, very quick response there from the Underworld team. A completion and a touchdown there. It says on turn 4, so a very, very quick turnaround. Not sure whether there was a blitz there or whether it's quite the right order. Elves then go for a completion. The Underworld go for a completion and more fouls. And then turn 11, Simon takes the lead with a gutter runner, and turn 14, Simon then cements that with a 3-1 win. Andy gets some SPP at the end, turn 16, why not get some SPP for that, for a completion there. It's been a difficult start for Andy, and this game was always going to be uphill. The next game, all those players back, which I think is against me, possibly a chance there to restart things. 2 losses in your first 2 games does not mean you don't get through. I've done it before. You can get through with 2 early losses. So, season's by far from over. Simon will be thrilled to be sitting second in this group now after that win. Maybe this is Simon's year. I really think I'm going to struggle to get to, I think it's going to be tight to get out of this group here. So well done to both coaches there. That's all of our games this week. Let's have a quick look at the tables, how they look. Rich still sitting pretty at the top of that group. The Amazons jumping up to third there with that win against the Goblins. Carve looking very tight there. Actually, this doesn't look like this is quite up to date. Let's try this again, shall we? There we go. Okay, that looks a little bit better. So, yeah, very tight there at the top of Carve. Elves just slightly ahead of Norse. Jane will be gutted to be sitting bottom of that group. I think she deserves to be higher up than that. So we'll see if she can, her or Andy can turn that around. Tennis Hotspews sitting pretty at the top of that group. Lots of games to play there, so we'll see how that one changes. The group Double Elves and the Imperials and the Lizards, this one could be a third place one. Look at that, 6-5-4-0, and I think Harrison is going to get some points. I think all of these games have been close. There have not been a lot in it, so there is a lot to play for in that group. That is probably our tightest one. Robert sitting where he should be, comfortably at the top of that group. Simon jumped up to second with that win. I dropped down to third. Can I get higher than that? I don't know. Let's see. Heldman, James comfortably sitting at the top there. Mitch yet to play, and we know that Mitch did beat James last season, so there is much, that group is still probably open. But James will be happy with two early wins. And not many games played, no games played this week in Reigner, but we've got a couple of coming up. So that group stays as it is with the Graveyard Brawlers on top. We'll quickly look at the honours as well. We're going to just catch ourselves on this. The honours list looks very good for the Tipsy Tankards and the Riotous Rams. Tankards now the most valued team, so they're going to be giving away some SPP. Riotous Rams are sitting there most famed. Experience, Tankards. Best performance, Tankards. They are second on the top scorers, along just behind Rich there. They have up there with the best defense. They're up there with the most beast. They are really going for it. So, there's a lot to play for here. They're also fouling loads. That foul list is going to be really tight. So, all of these honours, they're things to play for. You might get to a point in the season where you think, I'm not going to win, but I can be the most deadly coach. So, keep an eye on the way these are going, because there are lots of things to still play for here. We've got one more interception than we did last season, so well done to John for fighting against James for that particular honour. Lots of players with 2 wins, so we'll see whether they can continue that. And lastly, I did promise you a sneak preview, which will be the last thing we'll do, and then I'll run away. So we've had a little think about something that we can offer for coaches who maybe don't make it out of the group stage, and don't progress any further when their season comes to an end, but they want to keep playing Blood Bowl. We did something similar last year with some kind of sevens nonsense, so an optional thing our coaches can do. We've had to think about what to do this season, and this is just a sneak peek that I am going to give you. And that's it. That's all I'm giving you. That's all. That's your teaser. So anyone who's still watching, that's your teaser. That's all you're getting. We'll give you more next week, or possibly sooner. I'm not sure when we're going to say more on that one. But could be a little fun bonus thing for people to do. So keep an eye out for that. That's the roundup. Thank you everyone for watching. This will be available on Twitch for a few more days. It will then be available on YouTube afterwards. We'll get it on the YouTube channel, where all of the games that have been streamed so far are all on there as well. Tomorrow we're going to be streaming the Riotous Rams versus Corn Asylum, that rematch after that brutal game. We're going to be streaming that. That's at about midday tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. We are also going to be streaming a game, the Reptile Dysfunction versus Flumps. We'll be streaming on Thursday as well. So 2 games to come for you this week. Thanks for watching. Thank you for any comments and taking part. And we will see you all at the next roundup.